Bonjour or bonsoir, depending on where you are right now. Welcome to a new office hours live with me. I will be live for about 1 hour, and in that time, we will have all of the time that we need to answer any question that you have. So if you're live right now, please say hi. And if I don't know you yet, please say where you are calling in from, and just let me know that you're live right now. Today, we will speak about 7 ways to learn real life French, and I will go more into the details of what I call real life French and why it's important. So here we have Linda and Connie. So cool to see you two back here. It's amazing. Thank you for being here almost every week. This is super great. Yeah, and real life French. So a bit of housekeeping before I get into the program for today. So if you want to study with me, I strongly recommend you join the French Fluency Accelerator. I do not have a spot available to work one-on-one with me right now. All my spots are taken. There might be 1 or 2 spots in May. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, those spots will be offered in priority to the students in the French Fluency Accelerator. So if you want to work one-on-one with me, or if you want to study with me more closely, not one-on-one, but in a small group, please join the French Fluency Accelerator. You have the link in the description of this video, just under the text. Other than that, please also join my Telegram channel if you haven't joined it already. That is where I share most updates on a regular basis. I haven't used it as extensively recently as before, because I've been pretty busy with all my clients and all the work that I'm preparing behind the scenes. But I will keep using it a bit more, maybe sporadically. So if you are not on Telegram yet, the link is in the description as well. It's free, and you can just join it. And if you don't know what that is, there is a tutorial somewhere on this YouTube channel on how to use Telegram. Linda is saying we have a lot of fun in the accelerator. It's true. We actually, just yesterday, I ran a live French class, which was like 2.5 hours. It was so long. I wasn't expecting it to go that long. And actually, that was a live class which was based on real life French content, because all of my French classes are based on real life French content. And there is a very good reason, or several very good reasons for that. And I will explain more about those classes a bit later, because that will be one of the ways that you can learn French with real life French content. So first, what do I mean with real life French? Like, is there such a thing as fake French or fake life French? Well, yes, basically there is. So what I mean with real life French content or material, it's material that has been created by French natives, or like by French speakers for French speakers. So it's material that has not been created specifically for learning. And that is really important, because all the most recent guidelines on how to teach languages or to help people learn languages tell you that you have to use real life content. That is not a good way to teach people to make up dialogues or make up phrase books or something like that. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the material that you might use to learn French is actually not made of real life French material. So it's material that has been written by some people for the sake of helping you learn. And there are a couple of issues like that. Oh, Oma Walayo is here. Hi, welcome back. So there are a couple of issues with that. So one of the reasons why it's not ideal to use made up content or made up dialogues is that, for one thing, it gives you the impression that a language is just words with no culture. It also gives you the impression that the language is monolithic, as in there's not so much difference from places to places. And if you're studying a language like French or also English, it will be very different from France to Canada to French-speaking Africa. There are just a lot of different variants of French. But most French methods, French books, are centering a certain kind of purified version of French. I don't like the word purified, but you get the idea, right? It's just a French that's cultivated out of the, not cultivated actually, that's French that's like, it's like when you grow fruit outside of any garden, just like in a factory. That's just, that's unreal. It's probably not that bad for fruit, but for language, it's really bad, because a language is only as it is spoken by people, and it's only part of the culture. You cannot separate the language from the culture. But unfortunately, still nowadays, most French learning content or most language learning content is built on the idea that, yeah, it's no big deal. Like, they just don't integrate culture at all. and they don't integrate the variations between the variants of the language at all, which causes you to, if you learn with this kind of material, then you go to a French-speaking country expecting people to actually speak like that, well, you're in for some disappointment. You might have learned French very, very well with phrase books or with French learning methods, like, Rosetta Stone or whatever, or Duolingo. And when you go to France or you go to a French-speaking country, you're like, whoa, they speak a completely different language. The reason why they speak a completely different language is because the language that you have learned was not real in the first place. So I hope that makes sense as an introduction. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you don't understand. And so basically, the whole idea is that it sets you up for failure. If you learn a language that's unreal, you can only ever keep practicing languages that's unreal. So to make up for that, most schools, if they have an higher level, because they don't always have levels for like higher, intermediate, or advanced students, they would maybe introduce some, literature or whatever at the highest level, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do it from the beginning on. It's much easier. So no matter what your level is right now, I will give you techniques that you can use today to learn the real French, and not some French that has been just somehow grown outside of any French context. Yes. For the record, if you have learned English, it's a bit different for English because English is mostly used as a language for international communication. So if you're a non-native speaker of English and you're like, oh, why? I don't understand the difference. I don't understand why that is a problem. I learned English without any culture attached to it. That's because the situation of English is a little bit different. We have this globish language. It's not real English when you think about it. Like, it's not the English as it's spoken in England or in the US or in India or in any English-speaking country. It's just the kind of bridge language that non-natives use to communicate all the time. And that's fine. As long as you want to communicate with non-natives and you never want to experience the culture, you can learn a language outside of a cultural context. The same is actually true for French, in case you are learning French just for the sake of communicating with other non-natives as a vehicular language. But that would not be the case of most people that are listening to right now or that will be on the recording. That will only be the case of people, like, I think only in Africa, to be honest. I cannot think of any place outside of Africa where French would be used as a way to communicate between non-natives only. So if you're not African and you're not living in a country where French is an official communication language, this will just not apply to you. You will be more likely a Francophile who wants to learn French so that you can experience the culture better. And if your ultimate goal is to experience the culture better or to communicate with natives or to work with natives, you absolutely want to take into account their culture, because otherwise, yeah, you won't know what you will be talking about and you'll be clueless about them and they will not even understand. Like, the communication will be like weird, right? It's like if I would come here and not know anything about, say, American culture or English culture and try to explain things to you, I might just I might just say things that are like fundamentally parts of my culture and start, translating real weird French expression like, oh my God, yeah, I have other cats to whip. And you'll be like, what? Like, cats to whip? Like, what the hell? And yeah, it actually means I have bigger fish to fry. But that's the kind of thing that you will do if you learn the language like completely outside of any cultural situation. So I hope this makes sense. Yeah, so it's not a good idea to learn the language which is unreal and separated from the culture, and we know that, and language learning experts know that. I learned that in the university while I was acquiring my master's degree for teaching French as a foreign language. But guess what? Most schools still don't care. And I only used this twice. The things that I learned in university on how to do this, I only used it twice. The first time was during my professional practice for that master's degree, which was at the Diplomatic Academy here in Vienna. And actually, in English, it's called the Vienna School of International Studies. It's a school for diplomats. I had my professional practice there. I was teaching there for a year. And there, I actually actively used what I learned in the university. And the second time that I used these principles is now in my own business. And in between my professional practice, which I finished in 2010, and now, well, which I started this business in 2016, I taught for 6 years in many different schools, and none of them used these techniques. And before 2010, I was already a teacher for, I don't know if I can count that. I started when I was 19, so that was in Yeah, another 5 years or so before 2010. And same story. Like no one cared. Like I discovered that later on when I was at the university. I was like, what? I have always taught. I have never taught this way, and it baffles me. I don't understand why more schools or more content creators or more class creators don't use this method. In fact, I just recently, 2 days ago, received an email from a new student of the French Fluency Accelerator who was like, oh, wow, this program is so different. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's very different from everything else. And I don't understand why, because everybody should be doing it this way. I mean, these are the guidelines that are given to European language teachers. You know, that in Europe, they are very big on language learning because we have 27 countries and like 25 different languages also. And there is a goal of the European Union that every citizen should be able to speak three languages. I don't think we'll get there, but they're making a lot of efforts in this direction. So those are the people who really are pushing the innovation in language learning. And that was in 2001 that they released the book that was like, yeah, we have to learn with real life French, with real life English, real life German, real life every single language. But it's been 20 years, nothing has changed. So it's pretty sad. But the good news is that you're here now, and I will tell you how you can do it, even if you're a beginner, even if you're on your own. So if you're not studying with me one-on-one, or you're not even in one of my French learning programs for any reason, you will still be able to use what I'm sharing today. And that's basically seven techniques or 7 ways that you can benefit from real life French. Because the good news is that now that we have the internet and we have YouTube, Netflix, podcasts, and everything you want, it is very easy to have access to real life French content. It's not even that hard to find it. Actually, there was a live that I made a couple of weeks ago, which was how to find this content. So you can, if you don't know how to find it, you can go and reference that live and watch it, and then you will find exactly how to do it. And then this is how to use it now that you have it. So I hope you're ready. The first thing I have on my list, and I'm surprised, like it's been 12 minutes, I haven't said it yet, but the daily French bath, right? So the daily French bath, I have spoken about it in, well, every live video. It's become the running joke. Do you say that in English, running joke? I think so. It's become the gimmick of this of these live hours, and pretty much every single one of my video, and every single workshops with the French Fluency Accelerator students, and every single live class, and pretty much in every single coaching session one-on-one, I also say, yep, daily French bath. So the daily French bath is basically, and we have, if you've never heard of it, well, welcome. It means you're new. Yes, running joke. Okay, good. Thanks, Linda. So in case you've never heard of the daily French bath, it just consists in putting some French content and listening to it. So it could be YouTube videos, podcasts, movies, a series on Netflix, or pretty much anything that includes some French-speaking music as well, right? So anything that contains and includes some French being spoken out loud, that can count as a daily French bath. Technically, if you read in French, that would also count maybe as a daily French bath, but I would not recommend replacing your daily French bath with just reading, unless your goal is to just learn how to read in French, which, why not? I mean, some people do it, but most people learn French so that they can speak in real life. So it's important to listen to spoken French. And you really don't need to understand anything, to understand everything or even anything. It's just about having it in the background. But of course, please use real French. Like, for example, I have one of my videos, which is about learning French while you sleep. Does this work? And I kind of criticize rather heavily those tracks, even though I do think that it's possible to improve your French while you are sleeping. The Learn French While You Sleep tracks in YouTube are basically someone reading a phrase book. And this is the epitome of unreal French. So you don't want to have that kind of things. I'm not saying that it can't somewhat help, but it's not as good as hearing real French speakers, native speakers, the way that they speak, and just get your ear used to hearing it and get your brain used to, like, okay, this is part of my life now. These people speak a weird language, but we're just gonna let them speak it and just accept that it is there. And you will be surprised how much just doing this every day improves your French. It doesn't have to take any more time. Just do it while you're cooking, while you're cleaning, while you're driving, while you are taking a walk or running, working out, like anything that, especially if you're doing something that requires some sort of not fully concentrated. Like, it's basically if you are doing something that uses your hands and your eyes, but not something that requires a lot of mental work, cooking or driving is a perfect example. then that will be the best state that you can be in to have your French in the background. So daily French bath, that's number one. Number two, I was saying in the introduction that I would tell you more about that. It's French classes based on real life content. So like I said, according to all the language learning experts, especially the guidelines of the European Union, we should never teach without using real life content, yet everybody does it. Not everybody, I don't. And so, for example, in the French Fluency Accelerator, I make those French classes. We already have 5, and I'm making 8 new ones per year as of right now. I would love to make more, but I'm pretty busy, and they take a lot of time to prepare. I mean, like I was saying, we had one yesterday, and it's 2.5 hours long. The recording is over 2.5 hours, including the student feedback. But when you join the French Fluency Accelerator, or if you're already there, you have access to all the past French classes. There are already 5, and each of them will keep you busy for quite some time. And that's super important, to use these kind of things and just seek to understand real life French. So in those classes, I have made questions to guide you to understand either a song or a video. And that's really the way that you get to understand the details, because during your daily French bath, you probably won't understand all the details. But if you have a class that is made of a document and you really seek to understand all the details thanks with the guidance of the questions, then that will be a good way that you will understand the thin nuances. I also love to include slang in those classes, which is, so I will choose a document that contains slang, and then I will make an exercise where you can connect the slang to the actual translation, or like into real French. And those are all the ways that you can learn just varieties of French and the way that the French really talk to each other. So you don't have to be in my classes, but if you are going to join a school or something, I strongly recommend making sure that the teacher will be using real things, like real songs or real videos. I don't know how frequent it is, to be honest. I think it's pretty rare, but if you can find some, it's great. If you work one-on-one with a tutor, you can ask them to prepare sessions for you with this kind of documents. So that's really good. Like, French classes that are based on real-life French content are going to be the best for teaching the language and the culture at the same time. So that was number 2. Number 3 is workouts with French videos. So that's actually one of my favorite things, because it's very, very beginner friendly. On YouTube, you have all sorts of workouts and yoga videos and every kind of workout really that you can think of. If it's a workout that you can do at home, or maybe even gym workouts, then you will find videos in French about those workouts. So you can just switch the workout that you're using to do one in French. And because you can see the people doing it at the same time, it will not be that difficult to understand the French, even if you don't know the words. And that's a really good way to learn things like the names of body parts, the name of exercises, etc., etc. So you can look for something that you love. If you love yoga, like I love yoga, I can find easily any video for yoga in French, the yoga for anything I want, back pain or for relaxation or for energy. You can find any of that in French as well, not just in English. So that's a really good way to put more French in your life. And it's great for beginners, and it's also great for kinesthetic learners. Unfortunately, most of the learning techniques have been created for visual learners. Some will be more convenient for auditory learners, but for kinesthetic learners, it's very difficult to find things that work well. Workouts are one of the best things that you can do if you are kinesthetic, and it will work just as well for the other two learning styles. So that was my number 3. Number 4 is to watch French movie series or videos for entertainment. So it's a little bit of the same as the daily French bath, but in this particular case, I would recommend actually watching it. And it's perfectly okay to watch it with English subtitles. And you can also do it with your friends or your family. So if you live with someone, or if you have someone visiting you, or you're visiting someone and you want to share a French movie together, even if they don't speak French or study French, you can use the English subtitles. You can also use English subtitles just for yourself if you just want to be entertained and you don't want to miss out on, I don't know, 80, 50, however many percent of what the people are saying. You just really want to understand it, not so much break your head with the French. It's still good to listen to the French as it is spoken and have subtitles in English. I have heard people say that it's cheating. It's not cheating. The more French you can have around, the better. It would be better to have subtitles in French if you can understand the subtitles in French. So there's that. But subtitles in English are great. So what you can start by doing is having French with English subtitles, then you can move on to French with French subtitles, and then eventually you can just delete the subtitles and watch French only. It's like a progression of movies and series. On YouTube, the subtitles are a bit hit or miss, to be honest. Some subtitles are great because some people actually seek to translate the subtitles, but some of them are auto-generated or auto-translated, and it's making progress, but it's not there yet. So you have to see if you can tolerate them or if it helps you understand. It's just, like I said, it's a bit hit or miss. So the fifth way that you can learn with real-life French content, which you can use with any of the things we've mentioned before, they all work in combination, is to extract the vocabulary. So I'm pretty sure I made other videos, other live videos about vocabulary, or else I have recorded videos about vocabulary and how to learn it. So I'm not going to get into too many details. But basically, there is a rule for knowing what vocabulary to learn. And the rule is you hear it or you need it. So what do I mean by that? You need it is pretty easy to understand. So whenever you want to speak French and you don't have a particular word and you can't find a workaround, like I would always recommend is trying to express yourself with the words that you do have rather than seeking the words. But sometimes you just don't have the word. That's where I can plug the story of my dad and the stripper, which is when I was in Germany. I was renovating a room in my flat, which I had bought, and I needed a tool. And that tool was a tool that I had seen my dad use as a child. And I just needed that tool, which is used to remove wallpaper. And it's called in French une décolleuse. And I didn't know the name in English or in German. And if I want to order something on Amazon, I can only look it up in English or in German, not French. So I researched décolleuse and I found the word stripper. And then I had the weird idea of typing stripper in Google image to see if that would bring up the tool that I wanted to see. And well, yeah, the pictures were nice, but they were not tools. And then I eventually found out that it's a wallpaper stripper, not just a stripper. So that's how I realized that as a child, I had seen my father with a stripper quite a lot. So that's the kind of things, if you need a wallpaper stripper and you need to order it and you don't know how to say it in your target language, it's okay to look for the specific word. If it's not something that specific, if it's just you don't have the exact words to say what you mean, for example, of course, I'm not going to have an example right now. But for example, if your train is delayed and you want to say delayed and you don't know how to say delayed, but you know how to say late, yeah, to be late is en retard, then you can use late, right? You can use le train est en retard. You don't have to say le train est retardé, which would be delayed. So try to find the workarounds, but if you can't, that's when you want to look up the word. Or it happens a lot in my one-on-one sessions. I give a lot of vocabulary to the student who's learning with me. I will just give them the words after they have tried their workaround. So that's the need. You need it. And the other one is you hear it. So that's when extracting the vocabulary from the real life content is a good thing that you can do. If you hear your people in your real life content keep talking and keep using the same word and keep using the same expressions, that's when you can realize that, oh, I think I need to learn that, because if I learn it, then I will understand more. So that's when you can extract it and put it in your vocabulary notebook. Right, so if you have any questions, again, please feel free to comment or type in the questions. And then we'll move on to number 6, which is using immersion to help with grammar and with retaining vocabulary. So the thing is, when you use immersion, learning more grammar and more vocabulary, it might just happen. So for some people, they will work really, really well with immersion and they will just like soak up the language. Some people can do that. For most people, it will probably work better if you activate it before. So if you've been on those lives before, or if you've been watching my videos, you probably have heard of the 4 steps of French learning, which is selection, activation, immersion, and safe practice. So we're speaking here today about immersion, mostly about immersion, 7 ways that you can learn with real life French, but it's mostly immersion. It will work better if you have activation first. So a good way is to just learn some grammar, which you need because that's where you're at from your goals. Or like if you've been in a class with me or in a class with another French teacher, and that's where you're at in the grammar, it's good to learn it before, because then when you immerse yourself, it will help you make the grammar, like assimilate the grammar. And the same is true for the vocabulary. If they have been brought to your attention, for example, because you heard it or you needed it, then then using the real life content will help you retain the vocabulary. And the last final thing I have on my list for today is to adjust for your goals. So that's really, really important. I tell you that probably in every single session, but you have your fluency worksheet. If you don't have it, it's part of the French Fluency Starter Kit, and the link is in the description below. But that's basically where you write all your goals in the form of all the things that you want to be able to do in French and all the topics you want to speak about. So you want to connect the real life French that you use with whatever you've written here. So the things that you like, your hobbies, your profession, your interests, then all of that you will want to support it with some real life French content that you watch. And this way it will be easy for you to connect seamlessly between your goals and the real life French that you use, and then eventually connect with natives, which I recommend you do as soon as you can. But especially now in the pandemic, you might not be able to connect with natives so easily. You might not be traveling. You might not be seeing some business partners or whatever. If you're not Zooming with them right now, then you might just not have so much of an opportunity to connect with them. And then using the real life French from videos, from songs or movies, that can be a good way to keep injecting some French in your life, and just that all works together. All right, so that's it for the 7 ways to learn French with real life French, to use real life French. I am happy to hang out with you and to answer your questions or comments. So please go ahead and type any questions you have in the comments. I'm surprised that I'm so early done with the content. I was just expecting it to be a lot longer. I guess we haven't had that many comments yet today, but yeah, please tell me what you think. Please tell me what kind of things you like to use for your immersion or your daily French bath, or what kind of real life French content you have been using in the past. And if you haven't, please tell me what kind you would like to use, and then I can probably orient you to find them or to start using them. So if you don't have a practice of using real life French yet, now is a good time to tell me, okay, tell me about your situation, and I will help you out with that. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit to see if we have some comments and get a little bit of water. So, I mean, if we don't, as usual, if we don't have any question, we don't have to, or any comment, we don't have to keep hanging out together. But I mean, I can just go. But now is a great time to just mention anything you would like to bring up, or like share the experience you've had learning French recently. Especially if it was not that great, or if it was great, you can share it too. So Tony is here. Hi, Tony. I have just joined late. Must catch up. My favorite content is, so I guess there's a continuation to that. Wait. All right. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. If you know a great series in French, I've heard there's a new series which is called Lupin, but I haven't watched it yet. So 1 or 2 minutes long, up to 5 minutes long. So that will be a great thing that you can use for, I mean, in number 2, I called it French classes based on real life content. You don't actually have to have a teacher work you through those classes. You can actually use it by yourself and just decide to look at this content and check out everything that they're saying, or not everything, but most everything. There's a podcast that I discovered recently, which is called Change Ma Vie, and it's typically 10 minutes long. It's a personal development podcast in French. So you could use that, for example, maybe. Linda's saying, Lupin is really good, lots of slang. I have just started watching it again. Okay, I have to get a Netflix account again and just try to fix my VPN so I can watch that. but I have so many things to watch. I can't I can't catch up with all the stuff I have to watch or to read, even worse. All right. Tunan is saying, actually, on lots of French radio applications, there are lots of short applications. Oh yeah, this is true. If you use France Info or France Culture, even on their website, they have tons of really short podcasts. So yeah, you can try. It's pretty good, Change Ma Vie, and I really like that she speaks in a way that's very, very articulate, and she's very easy to understand. Like if I would be speaking, I would probably be speaking a lot faster than her. I know I have to train myself to speak more slowly, but for some reasons, so far I haven't managed to make myself do that. So I'm very admiring of the people who do manage to speak slowly. So yep. Any other comments or things you'd like to share with your fellow students, the things you've been using? For example, for workouts, there's this guy which is called Thibaut In Shape, and he's super famous. He mostly has a very young public, but you might want to check him out. Linda is saying, how so I started listening to French meditation on Mike Meditation's channel. Yes, Mike Meditation, I hear is very, very good. It really helps my listening practice because he speaks slowly and distinctly. Yeah, actually, I could have put that as like point 8 on the list. Use meditation tracks in French. So on this channel, you have meditation tracks that I have made, which are in English to help you with learning French. The Open Your Mind to French Learning Meditation is in English with the beginning and the end are in English, but the middle is in French. But you can actually go to a YouTube channel that's entirely in French, made by French people for French people, because remember, it's the whole point of real life French. So it has to be made by native for native. So if I make it, even if I make it in French for you, it's actually not going to be made by native for native. I can make it really close, but it's still not going to be like real. It's going to be like fake real, if you will, if that makes sense. So I'd strongly recommend, if you like meditating, to go to a channel like Mike Meditation and just pick those meditations in French if you're already an at least lower intermediate students or an upper beginner. If you've been speaking French in the past and you have forgotten everything, then that still applies to you. But if you're a complete beginner and you've never learned any French, that might be a bit difficult. So Tony is saying France Info, Radio France has a lot of podcasts. Yes, that is true. You can also find them online, so that's really good. My favorites are La Story du Jour, 1 minute, but no transcription. Okay, I have to check this one out. I'm not sure which one it is. But good, I'll check it out. But arguably with a 99% transcript, also from France Bleu, On n'arrête pas l'histoire, 2 minutes long. Ooh, yeah, that makes me think of one more, which is typically 3 minutes long, which is called Un bonbon sur la langue. I think I shared it on Telegram once, but I don't clearly remember. It's a podcast where they speak about the language itself. So it's French people, or like it's a French person, a French woman who's discussing an aspect of the French language for French people. So often it's things that they make mistakes about, for example. It's pretty advanced. It's more, I would recommend it more to advanced learners, but it's a pretty nice podcast to listen to. Like I have some advanced students who love listening to it, and I listen to it on occasions. It's really interesting. So yes, anything else you'd like to share? I was thinking if I have more ideas. Muriel Gilbert, that's the creator of Un bonbon sur la langue, exactly. So sur RTL. So it's more targeted towards maybe older French people. So I don't know how old the audience of RTL is nowadays, but it's probably people who are more like in their 60s, 70s. And that's also a reason for her to speak more slowly and with more academic French. So it's not like there won't be any slang in that. So if you're looking for some slang, it's not a good podcast for you. But if you're looking for really articulate French learning and to learn more about the language, then that's perfect. So yes, would you like to share something else or ask a question or comment or share your experience with real life French? Yes, there are others on RTL. There are plenty actually on all the French radios. So that's a good place if you like to listen to the radio. Oh, tell me if you have ever had the experience of having some sort of like a cultural, experiencing a sort of a cultural gap where you said something to a French person or a French speaker, or not even necessarily a French speaker, but a member of a different culture or nation, and they just like totally didn't work. Like, can you share this kind of experience? Like that, I will quote the Netflix and chill story again, but like when I was at the beginning of this business, like in the second year or so, I sent an email to 400 people saying literally, I like to Netflix and chill. And someone replied to me being like, yeah, it doesn't mean what you think it means. And I was like, okay. And apparently Netflix and chill means having casual sex with someone while having Netflix in the background. Now, I'm not saying that this couldn't be used as a daily French bath. Probably it could, but it wasn't what I meant. What I really literally meant, opening Netflix and chilling. So that was a moment when like, oops, I used this expression, but I should have checked before I used it. So yeah, does that resonate with you? Have you had this kind of embarrassing experiences as well? Linda is saying, I had 1 year ago when I first visited my friend in Yorkshire, England. I had traveled all day and needed a nap. My friend's teenage brother asked me what time should I should knock me up. Yeah, well, yes, because in England, if you knock on the door to wake someone up, you knock them up, right? In the US, it's something else, right? American slang, to be knocked up is to be made pregnant. So did you get knocked up in the end? Like in the English sense of the question? Right. Okay, so I'll just stick around a bit. Yes, although poor Tony was so embarrassed. I can imagine. I can imagine that's it's always kind of like that, and for some reason like the things that don't translate are very often of some sort of like sexual nature. It's really weird. You will find entire videos on YouTube. I haven't made some. Maybe I should make some about that. But you'll find entire videos on YouTube where people just compare the words, and I think it's from Casually Explained. That's an American YouTube channel, Casually Explained. He made a video about the French language where basically it's almost like every single word in French has a sexual meaning in that video, according to him. So of course he wrote that in a way that it's really, really funny. So it's like 4 or 5 minutes. So if you want to give it a watch, it's a great video to watch and to have fun with it. And the worst part is that everything he says is actually true. So for example, like you can't say excited in French because it's going to take a bit of a sexual meaning. And yeah, there are just so many of those. Other English words to avoid: shag. Yeah, even if it is a carpet type and a type of tobacco too. Yeah, so actually this I know from having a British friend, or British friends even. So they do use this kind of slang, so I know that, but I don't think I'm safe from the problems that could still occur. Like one biggest one that happens to French students who are in like exchange students in the UK. And trigger warning is the word rape, because in French, raper, it means to grate. And often, like, it's actually a strategy that I recommend you use. It's just that sometimes backfires. Most of the time it doesn't. But if you take an English word and you translate it and you pronounce it French way, then it might translate to a French word that means roughly the same thing. And in the case of raper, this person, or like, I mean, I'm sure many people have made this mistake. Just assume that you could translate it right away. And no, you can't. And it's a bit like the knock-up thing. It's no. Yeah, so you don't, if you want to grate the carrots, you first look it up in the dictionary, because no. So, yep. Linda is saying, this is not a situation when you have a language like Esperanto, right? Because it's not tied to a culture or several. No, I haven't had this situation. This is a great point. I haven't had this situation with Esperanto, indeed. But Esperanto does have a culture. It does have some expressions. So, but I haven't had the situation where you would randomly stumble upon an expression and it would mean the opposite. And also Esperanto speakers just spend so much time speaking about languages that it would just make for a really, really nice discussion, and that will be fine. But yeah, Esperanto is pretty straightforward. Oh, rapeseed is le colza in the UK. So what do you call it in the US? Is it colza in the US? Because I actually don't know that. Oh, you call it, so you call it rapeseed in one, okay. So it's actually the same for the UK and the US. It's just the French who call it le colza. Right. Okay. Can you think of any like other weird thing that I might not know? That's just like weird expressions or weird stuff. Or of course, if you have any questions for me, I mean, I'm of course happy to answer them, but you know that. I wrote on my notes that if you do your workout with videos, you will be killing two birds with one stone. So I wrote that in English, but in French we actually say faire d'une pierre deux coups. So faire d'une pierre deux coups, which means to have two hits with one stone. Turn one stone into two hits. As a summary, what did you miss? So basically, the topic was 7 ways to learn with real life French. So real life French is French that is French that is real, that has been created by natives for natives. And so the 7 ways to learn was, one, the daily French bath, which I'm sure you know because you've been often here, so you've heard of it. The second one was using French classes based on real life content. And I was explaining that these are the kind of classes I create for the French Fluency Accelerator. And it's what I was taught how to do at the university. But unfortunately, I've only used it in 2 jobs. So in this now French coaching business, and also when I was in my professional practice for my master's degree at the Vienna School of International Studies. But unless I'm my own boss or I'm in the highest level school that I can possibly find, you're not just having, this is just not something that's done, despite the fact that the guidelines are 20 years old already. So French classes based on real life content are going to be much more efficient to teaching you the language and the culture. The third thing you could do was work out with French videos, which are great for beginners and great for kinesthetic learners and for learning things like, body parts and the movements and things like that. And also, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone because you can get your French and your workout at the same time. The fourth one was watching French movies, series, or videos for entertainment. It's okay to watch them with English subtitles. That works just as well. The fifth one was to extract the vocabulary, and I was just briefly explaining how you can do it and how that can work together with your practice. But basically, if you hear that a word or an expression is repeated on and on and on and on, that's a good sign that you should listen, that you should extract it, find out what it means, and write it in your vocabulary notebook, because then, of course, this one word will be very valuable. You will keep hearing it, and then you will understand more if you know what it means. The sixth one was to use Immersion to help with grammar and with retaining vocabulary. So I was basically working through really fast the 4 steps and know how Immersion is the third one. And if you activate it before, it will help you more to retain grammar and vocabulary. That's something I've spoken about before. And the last one is to adjust it with your goals. So you don't want to listen to any random thing. You want to listen to the things that are actually going to help you move forward, speak about your hobbies, speak about your profession, and all the things that you want to speak about in French. So you can seek out YouTube videos, for example, about topics that you've wanted to learn about in French, or you wanted to speak about in French, even if you know everything that's explained on that video. So for example, I have lawyers who are my clients, and I recommend videos about law, or things like books like Le droit pour les nuls, which is law for dummies. And of course, they know everything, they know all the content, but the whole point is to teach them the words and teach them how to speak about that in French. So those are basically the 7 things that I said earlier in a much more expanded way. So if you have any question based on this summary, please go ahead, and I'm happy to answer the questions. That expression we have about having the bear skin. Oh, vendre la peau de l'ours avant de l'avoir tué. And it was very clear. Oh, I'm glad. That's good. So, vendre la peau de l'ours avant de l'avoir tué, it would be the equivalent of a bird in the hand is worth 2 birds in the bush, or something like that. So in French, we say selling the bear's skin before you have killed the bear, which is, you shouldn't do that because you don't know that we will kill the bear. Of course, it's a bit weird because we live in a capitalistic system where we do that all the time. You know, you go to the bank and you tell the bank that you will be able to pay them back later. They give you a loan, or you promise a service, you cash in a check, and then you deliver the service afterwards. But normally in traditional French society, you should not do that. You should first go out and kill your bear and then sell the skin. That's what the expression is about. All right. Do we have any other question or comments that I can answer to? Don't count your chicken before they hatch. Yeah, I heard this one. Yes, that's basically that. Like, yeah, first kill the bear, then sell the skin. First have the chickens hatch, then count them. Linda is saying, I mostly just want to have conversations with my friends, so I listen to TV shows, but there is a better place to find conversation. I'd like to know. Well, podcasts. I mean, TV shows are great if they are, what do you call that in English? Talk shows. Those are absolutely great to learn how to have conversation. You can also listen to podcasts that have interviews. So, for example, the podcast of Bitcoin that I've been sharing on Telegram, which is called Plan B, it's a person who was having conversation with another person. Do I know others in French that are like that? I do know a lot of podcasts. There's just one person who talks. I think about it. I don't think I know one. But for example, Antoine BM's vlogs that he's been publishing this entire week, he's been publishing a week where he's publishing vlogs every day where he's with a friend. He's traveling with a friend. The friend's also called Antoine, which is interesting. It's not that widespread a name. But they have conversations on that vlog every single day. So that's something you could watch. And then there are plenty on YouTube where you have people who are interviewing each other, or just more than one people who are having conversations. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. I was thinking, I'm sure there are other podcasts in French with conversations, but like right now, it's just out of my mind. Oh, I mean, you can always watch movies. So movies are not real conversations in the sense that the dialogues are written beforehand, but they are made to mimic conversations. So that's fine. What do I think of French phoneins for learning? I'm not actually sure what that is. What's a phone-in? Can you quickly explain on the radio, for instance? Oh, people who call, so when there's a host and people call and ask questions. Yeah, that's totally a kind of daily French bath that you could use. It might even be a conversation thing. You would want to find something that you're interested in. So if it's a radio show that you're interested in and the people calling are asking questions that you might be interested in hearing the answers, then that's a totally valid way of using real life French to learn French. Absolutely. So if you're doing that, keep doing it. Do you have any reference for places where you can listen to phone-ins that are interesting? I don't actually know because I'm not much of a radio person. Linda is saying, there's one I listened to called Learn French Conversation. 2 people pick a topic and have a short conversation about it. Yeah, so that's the thing. This is the kind of thing where you will just really want to look about how it works. Right, it feels a bit scripty. That's the thing. I would expect that to be scripted. There are a lot of books and books that are delivered with CDs or with recordings and so on, where really they script the entire thing, and sometimes they stripe out what's difficult with the goal of just teaching the easy part of French for beginners or for lower intermediate students. And it's not that it's fundamentally wrong. Like, if you like it, I'm not trying to deter you out of using it, But if it's the only thing you are using, you want to be cautious because it just does not represent the actual real language. So it's okay to use it as part of your study if it helps, but really keep in mind that you want to introduce in the mix some of the things we've spoken about today as a way to balance and really have real life French and French that's in its culture. So yeah, but I mean, it's okay to use them. It's just not the best to learn what the language actually is like. So interesting, but France Bleu, part of Radio France, has plenty of local radio phoneins. I have not tried to listen to. Yeah, so France Bleu it's a French radio channel. It also, I believe, has a TV version, but I'm not completely sure. And they have localized version for each area of France. So that will be really, really good if you have a particular connection with an area of France in particular. So for example, for Linda, I know that you have friends in Bretagne. You could decide to pick France Bleu Bretagne and listen to that, and that would give you local news for that area. And it's actually pretty good to do the same if you are interested in a country other than France, say an African country, for example, or Belgium or Switzerland or Canada. Although in Canada, Quebec is so, or like the French-speaking area in general is so large that they probably have several. But it's good to listen to the radio of that particular area because they will have the particular accent. They will use the particular kind of slang that is local to them. And, most of the time it's not super different from the so-called standard French, but if you are a intermediate learner, it could be enough to throw you off. Like I've listened to a video today with a Canadian accent, and of course I had no problem understanding it, but the Canadian accent was really, really strong, and they had some slang terms that I was not super familiar with. And already for me as a native and a French coach, it was not as easy to understand as if it had been from France. And this is an additional reason why you want to, number 7, adjust the things that you choose to your goals. So it's not just the topics, but it's also the variant of French. So if you are learning French to communicate with people in Canada, with native French speaker in Canada, then you want to use the material that's created there for those native speakers, because then that will help you get closer to the version of French that they speak. Right. So yeah, local radio is really good. There is a website called radio.garden. It's not just for French, it's in general, but it will help you, it will let you listen to local radios from all sorts of places in the world. So you can place yourself in the part of the world, like there's a map and you can move the map. So if you center the map on the place which you're interested in, then you will be able to listen to local radios from there. So if it's a place in France, you have French local radio. If it's, say, Democratic Republic of Congo, then you will have the local radios from Congo. If it's from Quebec, you'll have the Quebec local radio. You can have some from Morocco and so on. And really, there are French-speaking radios all over the world. So if you're having some wanderlust and you want to plan your next trip to a French-speaking country, but you don't know what variant of French they are speaking, it's a good idea to listen to their local radio to just get used to their accent and get used to the way they speak, and perhaps start learning some of their particular expressions or manner of speech. So I know you can't travel right now, but I hear there will be reopenings next month. So that might be a good idea to do that right now. Linda is saying, oh yeah, they found that for me. I listened to a radio station in Rennes on that. Yeah, so perfect example, right? Rennes is in Bretagne. That's where your friends live. So that's a great example use case for Radio.Garden. Also, so Tony is saying also lots of app Tunan comes to mind. Oh, Tunan is the name of the app. It sounds like a German word. And lots of smart TVs too, as well as phone apps. Yes, so I'm not actually familiar with those, so I'll have to check them out. Thank you for sharing them. That's amazing. I'll have to go back after this live and write down all the things that you have mentioned so that I can just check them out and integrate them to my own personal database. So thank you so much for sharing them. That's really cool. So we got another 5 minutes or so. If you have any question, any last question, or anything you'd like to say or ask, I'm happy to answer that. else I'm going to leave. Tunan is a radio app but is on lots of smart TVs, etc. Okay, I will have to look that up. Tunan, let me check that out. The internet radio. Oh, so it's actually an American. Oh, it's called Tunein, right? Okay, that's a capital E, right? Capital I. Best way to pick up very accented French. So I'm not sure what you mean with very accented French. Do you mean like, for example, French that has a very strong, quote unquote, non-standard accent, like for example, in Quebec or in Louisiana or in some African countries? If that's what you mean, honestly, the best way to pick it up is to listen to natives who have that accent. You're not going to pick it up if you listen to people who have a different accent than what you aim to speak. And that's actually something that many people make these mistakes, and it makes me sad, especially for the people in Canada, because it's a mistake I've seen mostly done in Canada for some reason. Canadian people just start learning French from France because they think it's the best, or it's like purer, or whatever, like weird complex thought that they were like, which just doesn't mean anything. Like there's no purer version of French than another. There's no French that's like better or more original or whatever. Like that's just all different versions of French. And if your goal is to speak with people in Canada, then do not learn like French from France first. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. You can only really get good at communicating with people when you learn their version of their language, which is basically the fundamental reason why we have this topic that we have today at all. Like you have to learn with real French because this is ultimately the French that you want to speak. So real French for you, it means the French that you want to be speaking with the people that you care about. So for example, I mean, I have been coaching people who have been living in French-speaking countries other than France. For example, I had a diplomat who I was working with, and he was originally from Zambia, and he was working in Congo. And I was very strongly encouraging him to keep speaking with an African accent. Like I was absolutely not wanting him to change his accent to something more French-friendly, because that would have been a horrible mistake in his situation. His goal was to speak with the government officials of Congo and with people in the Congo country. And his goal was to blend in. Like, you know, lucky for him, he was black, he was from the neighboring country, he looked just like them. But if he had started sounding just like he was from France, which I mean, we have lots of black people in France, it's possible to be black and speak the French from France, the standard French. But for him, it would have been a disaster. His goal was to look and sound just as close as possible to the people he was working with. So that's really something you want to take into account in your study, that you want to learn that particular French. So yes, very accented French, or yeah. Yes, ages. So for France. Yeah, so for France, same thing. I mean, if you are interested in people, like if you have friends in Toulouse, or you live there, or you want to move there eventually, or in Marseille, same story. You want to pick up their local radio and just listen to their accent and, you know, have conversations with them where you don't even need to try to mimic their accents. Like if you're a regular human, you will most likely mimic their accents naturally. So that's totally what I recommend. Just work with these kind of things. Blend in versus academic versus work. Yeah, so but even work, when you think of work, you also want to blend in at work because you're working with humans, and your colleagues are also humans. So even if you're using a professional language, a professional level of French, the way that you use this professional, or like the mere fact that you use the professional French, is blending in. While academic French, to be honest, unless you're a university researcher, which, you know, might happen, but if you're not a university researcher, you might have very little interest in academic French. I wouldn't even consider that. Those of my clients who need to write really good French, for example, I have one of my clients who works for the United Nations, and I help him to learn how to write those really complex reports with like the so-called UN speech. I would not be considering that academic, because there isn't really such a thing as academic, or there shouldn't be. Because it's weird to decide to set a standard and say that standard is like the academic way, while every other kind of institution has standards. Like the UN has a standard for their document, which is different from the standard that would be in a university, or the standard in any big company. So you have to really be mindful of, okay, what am I learning French for, and then seek to use that as your guideline, because that's, yeah, no one else can decide what's good French but you. Like, the good French is the one that works. All right, so we have a comment from Linda still. Lol, I do that when I visit Yorkshire. I try to speak English with the accent so they can understand me. Yeah, I can imagine with you being a New Yorker, when you're in the UK, you must struggle a lot with, because their accent is really, really different. All right, well, it's been an hour already. So wait, we also have a question. Mind you, many Brits understand most Americans or Australian accents too. Yeah, they kind of have to, because of the Globish, right? Like, the accent that's presented as default nowadays is mostly the American accent. So I guess we just cannot all get used to it. But yeah, that was a struggle when I went to the US as a youth, and our teacher was used to British English, and the US kids could not understand her. That was fun. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me and for all the comments and for participating in the discussion. It was amazing as usual. It's been an hour, so I'm going to bounce. If you have any idea of topics that I should speak about in the future, or things you would like me to cover, please use the comment sections in this video, or send me an email. If you're receiving my emails, you can just answer to any of my emails and just send me a message. And yep. All right, Linda is saying, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yep, absolutely. That will be the word of the end. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next Monday, or sooner, maybe on Telegram. All right, thank you, guys. Bye. Au revoir.